Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you again so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m. on the Eastern time zone as I get right home with you in the afternoon. You can find us many ways. You can find us in Alabama, up in North Alabama, channel 182, and that's on Charter Communications. So glad to be back with that group again. You can find us on Abundance Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on the newscasters.com and on the radio WZLA, the biggest country station in South Carolina, probably in the whole Southeast, who knows, but they have a huge audience and they play all the country classics. I have with me my very special friend John Merrill. He is our former Alabama Secretary of State, and I'll have to tell you, you've been missed for quite a few years. And I know that things are running a little bit differently than they were when you were in office, but you had a huge election on Tuesday. What are your thoughts about that election?
But Donna, we had 23% of our electorate actually turn out to participate. But the thing that caught a lot of people by surprise was the fact that there were more Democrats that voted than Republicans that participated in the primary on May 19th. Now, I've had a number of people ask me, do you think this is the beginning of a blue wave in Alabama? And the answer to that is definitely no. But the thing that people need to recognize is that the Democrats put forth a lot of quality candidates that are competitive in a number of races, beginning with the governor's race and then moving down to legislative races, moving down to county commission races, school board races, and they're trying to field as many candidates as possible to increase participation in November. And that was well received by a number of the people that would prefer to vote for Democrats, and that's the reason their participation was so high.
Absolutely. But I wanted to ask you a question. So I've interviewed Mr. Doug Jones before. Great candidate, I think. Very precise, really good gentleman, but I'm not into what his core values are.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the race between him and Coach Tuberville?
Well,
Senator Tuberville.
Yeah, and Coach Tuberville beat him badly when he was the incumbent United States Senator in the election that took place in 2020. And I think he'll beat him a lot worse now than he did then. And the reason that I think he'll perform at a higher level November the 3rd than he did in 2020 is because people in our state have had a chance to watch Coach Tuberville serve as our senior senator over the last few years and be very active in Washington, promoting conservative legislation, taking conservative positions, and being fully embraced by our people. So I think our folks are going to be excited to vote for Coach Tuberville. I don't know how much different the percentage will be, but the competition will be non-existent. But one of the things that I think should be known, Donna, is that if you look at Alabama elections over the last 15 years, you'll see that typically the generic Republican will receive 60% of the vote and the generic Democrat will receive 40% of the vote. With that being said, the only difference is how much that particular candidate can draw for him or herself. For example, the last time I was on the ballot, I got 64% of the vote. The governor received 57% of the vote. So the governor underperformed by 3%. I overperformed by 4%. But what you have to understand is you still have to get out and campaign because things can happen like they did with Judge Roy Moore in 2017. Right. And if you're not prepared, the results could be catastrophic.
Well, let me tell you how people kind of change their mind about candidates, okay? So when Senator Tuberville was running, I was kind of like this between him and another candidate. But I'll have to tell you, an advertisement that was ran actually to cripple him, actually, I think helped him. Now, forget the language. We all get into the language barrier sometimes. We say things we shouldn't say. But during the commercial, somebody yelled something at Coach Tuberville as he was out on the field. And he just turned around and looked at the guy and said, "Get a job." And then he said something else, along with that. But I'll have to tell you, that's the reason I voted for him, because I'm thinking, hey, we need toughness in DC, and that did it. That caused me to say, okay, he's the one.
Well, and it's the same thing, Donna, that happened with the president back in 2016. There could never have been a more attractive, more intelligent, more articulate candidate for president than Governor Mitt Romney was in 2012. But a lot of people, after the election was over, felt as though he was defeated by President Obama, who was running for re-election, because Governor Romney was always so calm, so secure, so polite. He was always being a gentleman. And they felt as though he needed to attack President Obama more, not in a mean-spirited way, but to challenge him based on some of the positions that he had taken and some of the things that they had done in the administration. And he neglected to do that. Now, if President Trump has done one thing, he's attacked. And he's made it clear that whenever Democrats do things that are out of line or out of control or against what he believes to be what's in the best interest of the republic, he lets everybody know.
Well, I think sometimes people are too passive about things. Now, Mitt Romney, during the debate, the first debate between him and President Obama, I'm just telling you, he let it fly. And we were all going, wow, some toughness finally. But when he came to that second debate, he seemed to be passive. And that's what we all noticed.
That's exactly right. And that's the reason people failed to embrace his candidacy. And that and the fact that when he went to Kentucky Fried Chicken, he ate it with a fork and a knife. Those were problems.
You got to get your hands on that Kentucky Fried Chicken and let it get grease all over yourself. That's the only thing, one way you can eat it. So let's talk a little bit about the Senate race, because there was a newcomer who came in, and I predicted he was going to be in the runoff. And you and I talked about him, and it was the first time you had been on the interview with me. And so he walks in, and you asked if I had interviewed him before, and I said, no, this is my first time around. And you let me know what his strengths were, and I'm just going to tell you, I enjoyed the interview.
Well, look, Jared Hudson, of whom you're speaking, very attractive, really good looking, looks like an athlete, was a Navy SEAL, very intelligent, very articulate, has a great ability to communicate, has a beautiful family. You put all of those things together, and he's promoting the message of change in Washington. People are embracing that message. When the news station that I was working for on Tuesday night went off the air at 10:30, he was trailing Attorney General Steve Marshall by about 5 votes. And I asked to look at the returns from certain counties, and I checked those out. One of the counties, the results were only half in. The other two counties, there were no results that were in at that point. And I said that night at that time, Jared Hudson will make the runoff. He went from being 5,000 votes down to being 10,000 votes up.
Well, there was just his mannerism, and the looks are okay, but I'm just talking about when he answered me, he's very pointed about it in a very dramatic, professional way. I guess is the way I would announce that. He wasn't afraid to answer questions. He wanted me to fire him at him. And he said, "Hey, Navy SEAL, I'm ready for it." And I said, "You know what? I think you are." And so it was a very pleasant, informative interview, just like the ones with you. As a matter of fact, you kind of reminded me of you just a bit, where you got the professionalism, and I really feel like he will try to reach out and work both aisles. And that's something else. And then that's what you always did in office. You always reached out to, it's not like they were, like the dreaded people you don't want to do anything with, but I've watched you reach out, and I think it takes that, but it also takes firmness like you have. Jared's got it.
Well, I think he does, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Of course, Barry Moore, who was the congressman from the 1st Congressional District, performed at a very high level, had 39% of the vote in the primary. He has the support of president. He's got the president's endorsement. He's got significant resources from Washington and the Club for Growth and other special interest groups. And he has raised a lot of money from people in his congressional district and throughout the state of Alabama. And Jared has raised a lot of money from all across Alabama and the nation as a whole. So it's going to be a very interesting runoff on June the 16th for the United States Senate nomination.
Oh, I think so too. But who would have thought a newcomer, someone you had never heard of before? Because I liked all three candidates at the top three. I liked them all. And so, I mean, either one of them to me would have made a great accent. I mean, it's just been great. But for this guy to be in second place like that, I think that really shows something. So, okay, so the folks who didn't make it to the runoff, who do you think they're going to throw their support to?
Well, I think it's difficult to say. One of the things you usually see in a runoff environment is less participation than you saw in the primary. That usually takes place in every race. I don't think that we're going to have a significant number of people come back out on June the 16th because a lot of local races were already decided at the ballot box on the 19th of May. And so those people don't have a reason in their mind to go back and vote for the federal positions or other statewide positions. So I think there'll be fewer people participate than there were before. And I am not one of those people that believes that endorsements carry a lot of weight, because the thing that Governor Riley shared with me several years ago was that if someone endorses us, then what it means is that we get all of their enemies and just a few of their friends. And so you understand that, because when that indeed is the case, it can result in you being defeated as opposed to you being assisted. And Governor Riley also said, and you'll love this, Donna, he said, look, I'll help you any way I can. If you need me to be for you, I'll be for you. If you need me to be against you, I'll be against you. Whatever will help you the most.
There you go. Let's go into a commercial. That's a good one, by the way. Let's go into a break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. You know, finding the right home isn't just about bedrooms and square footage. It's about comfort, security, and the feeling you get the moment you walk through the door. That's why so many families across Greenwood and the Lakelands area trust Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams. And I'll tell you from personal experience, Jenny was my realtor, and she truly cares about her clients. Jenny takes the time to listen, to understand what matters most, and to guide you every step of the way, whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, or ready to sell. Because this isn't just a transaction, it's your life. With local knowledge, personal care, and a commitment to getting it right, Jenny Ferguson makes the process simple and even enjoyable. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, now's the time to make your move. Call Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams in Greenwood today and take the next step toward a place you'll truly love coming home to. Good afternoon, Sunshine. Medical Minute brought to you by Dr. Chuck with Lakelands Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. So what is the Beamer? Okay, now the Beamer uses very gentle pulse to electromagnetic signals. This will stimulate healthy muscles and it supports the temporary blood flow. Now let's talk Beamer and circulation support. Now the Beamer gently supports natural circulation in healthy muscles. Now that's what I call natural health. Thank you so much for watching Your Medical Minute, brought to you by Dr. Chuck. You know who he's with. He's with Lakeland's Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. I hope you have a super duper awesome rest of the afternoon. You take care. Shine your style at Kiss My Glass right here in the Anderson Mall. There's a place where style meets sparkle. At Kiss My Glass, every piece is handcrafted, custom designed, and made to shine just like you. Owner Beth Gibson brings creativity to life with stunning custom tumblers, gifts, and one-of-a-kind pieces you won't find anywhere else. Look for the perfect gift or something uniquely you, from bold and glamorous to simple and elegant. There's something for every style, so stop by, get inspired, and leave with something unforgettable. Kiss My Glass inside the Anderson Mall, Anderson, South Carolina, where your sparkle begins. Be sure to check out Kiss My Glass on Facebook for updates and specials and gift ideas.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Lowe's knows that the projects you build in spring are the ones you can't wait to share. It's why we make sure you have our best deals with My Lowe's Rewards, and that you get help from people who've
Been there.
done that.
Try this.
This spring, we'll help you build something rewarding. Hey, Stan.
What's up? I made you something.
Oh, thank you. I got something for you.
You grew these?
Of course. Lowe's knows how to help you spring.
Okay, we are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge radio, television, and podcast talk show. You can also find us on all the social media sites as well. By the way, LinkedIn, for some reason I had an old email address out there from like 20 years ago, and I updated it. Now you can find us on LinkedIn. So we're proud to be back to them again. But again, so great to have John Merrill with us. He's our former Alabama Secretary of State, and he's my go-to guy on anything that happens. Now, most of the time he goes, and I think, okay, that means don't ask any more questions. So I don't. And I know you're a very busy man. You have lots of things going on yourself and in your world. So, and you're a guy that's really looked up to. I know a lot of folks in Alabama were hoping that you were going to run for governor. And I think a lot of folks were disappointed because you didn't. And then one of our friends said, common friends, she said, well, if he's not going to do that, then he could be senator. And so anyway, we're hoping for something in the future with you. So we keep our hopes up. But we're talking about the election on Tuesday, and there were some surprises. And let's go on down and talk about some of the other things. How about Attorney General?
Well, there were a number of surprises. And if you don't mind, Donna, let's just start at the top and go down. There were no surprises in the governor's race for the Democrats or the Republicans. On the lieutenant governor's side, there were some surprises for the Republicans, because John Wall, who's never been a candidate for public office before, but has served as the Republican state party chair, actually led the field of 8 candidates for Republican nomination for lieutenant governor. And Wes Allen, who had been the Secretary of State for the last 3.5 years, had been projected as the lead candidate, but he never got above the 20s in any polls that were done. Then when the results came in, he only performed at 38%. John Wall was 40+%. So I think a lot of people are looking as John Wall as the potential nominee for the Republican Party. He also has the president's endorsement for lieutenant governor, so I think that'll carry a lot of weight. Now, moving to the Attorney General's race that you just mentioned, I think a number of people were interested in what the results would be. Catherine Robertson, who's worked in that office for the last 10 years as the understudy to General Marshall, led the field with 41% of the vote, which was a very, very strong showing. And former Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Jay Mitchell, performed at a 34% rate. And then Pamela Casey came in about 25%. She's the district attorney in Blount County. I thought she would perform at a higher level. I thought that Jay Mitchell had lost some traction because of some of the campaign advertisements that he had engaged in, that a number of people were turned off by. And Catherine Robertson had run a strong campaign from the beginning. She has a number of people from Washington and other parts of the nation that have been helping her. She's raised and spent more than $2.4 million so far. So I look at her to probably receive the nomination on June the 16th. Moving down a little bit to the Secretary of State's race, was not very competitive at all. Caroline Dobson was the formidable candidate there. She received 60+% of the vote in a three-person race. Outperformed what a number of people had projected for her. I think she will win and make a fine secretary. She's already been trying to do some things to prepare herself to be able to hit the ground running on day one in January when she takes office. In the auditor's race, there was a very, very interesting contest because the incumbent auditor had indicated that he was going to run for Secretary of State, and then he changed his mind and decided that he would drop back to the auditor's position. Andrew Sorrell is very popular among extreme conservatives in our state, but he didn't have any money. He had not done a good job of raising money, but he had a very effective campaign and received 65+% of the vote against Derek Chin, who was a first-time candidate, 28 years old, who grew up in California, went to Hope College in Michigan, went to law school at Cumberland on the campus of Sanford University. But he had all the endorsements, and Andrew had no endorsements, and Andrew won that race very, very comfortably. Then the next race, of course, was the treasurer's race, and young Boozer took that.
Alert has arrived.
+% of the vote that was expected for him to receive. And then the last constitutional position was the Commissioner of Agriculture and Industry, where the favorite, Jack Williams, who's a state senator, two-term state senator from Mobile, finished third. And Catherine Warner McInnes and Corey Gardner, and Corey is from Marshall County, he's the mayor of Douglas, he got the Alpha endorsement, the Farmers Federation endorsement, and actually led the field. So that'll be a very competitive race in the runoff on June 16th.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Steve Marshall for just a few minutes. Have you heard any rumblings out there, chatter about his plans?
No, I think a number of people feel as though he'll probably have a role in the Attorney General's office as a prosecutor for select cases. Be able to do some things to support Catherine Robertson if she indeed is the nominee and is elected to the position. I don't know about his desire to go back and practice law full time. He's been a prosecutor for well more than 20 years now, as the district attorney in Marshall County for 3 terms, and then as the Attorney General for the state of Alabama for 2 full terms. He is the longest serving Attorney General in the history of the state.
I think there's still a lot for him out there. I really do. Let's talk a little bit about dirty ads. Okay, in South Carolina, we're hearing them too. They are out there. Do people really listen to those? I mean, I'm in the business, so I listen, but the people, the walking, just a normal human being, do they even pay attention to those?
I think they do, and sometimes they listen to them to the point where it hurts the person that actually promoted the advertisement trying to support their candidacy, and it ends up backfiring on them. That's one of the things that we saw with Jay Mitchell's campaign for Attorney General. That actually backfired on him with some of the advertisements that he was running that were not directed toward Catherine Robertson or Pamela Casey, but we're talking about what he intended to do to internationals, what he intended to do to a criminal element that was yet undefined. there were a number of things that actually put him in a vulnerable position, and people did not respond well to those advertisements. So they were negative ads, but they ended up being negative on him.
Well, think about what it did for President Trump. He's arrested. I mean, he's holding the sign up. What does he do? The master marketer, he turns it all around and has T-shirts made with him holding up a sign. And because we didn't like the way he was done. It just wasn't fair. And it backfired on him big time.
100%.
Absolutely. About 2 minutes left in this segment. What would you like to say before we go?
In addition to that, though, I do think people will respond to comparison advertising whenever it is shown that a candidate has taken certain positions. I think that was one of the things that helped John Wall in his campaign for lieutenant governor that hurt Wes Allen, because John Wall brought up the fact that Wes Allen had voted for 5 tax increases, that he had taken salary increases. Those things, people do not respond well to that from government officials.
Well, one thing you do when whether it's, a competitor in your business or someone you're running against in politics, you're giving them free advertisement when you do that, because that name just sticks in the head. And half the time people don't even remember what it was. It was like when they get out there at the ballot box, like, I know because I work the polls and I've watched people. They'll go, I heard a lot about this guy. I think I'm going to vote for him. And I'm looking like, whoa, that's bad for sure and negative. So in most cases, I think it does backfire.
For sure.
Absolutely. What advice would you give folks who are thinking about digging their boots in and running for office maybe next time around?
Well, Donna, I think people need to evaluate and assess the situation where they are. If it's a local race, if it's a regional race, or if it's a statewide race, and make a determination about the work that's being done by the current office holder, and then determine whether or not they are qualified to run for that position. They have enough support in their community to raise the money that's necessary to be an effective candidate. And if they do, they need to get out and start talking to people that they will depend on for their support, to see if the actual support is there before they make a decision about jumping in the race.
Do you think it all just boils down to the supporters who are going to show up and vote?
It always does, because the only thing that matters are the people that get out and cast their ballot on election day.
Absolutely. One more question. When folks are out there campaigning, would you suggest they do more one-to-ones? And what I mean by that is when you are out there facing people, even if it's a group setting, in lieu of running ads.
Well, you have to run ads to show people that you are credible and that you do work. But I don't think there's any substitute for actually meeting the voters personally, talking to the voters personally, sharing your vision personally, and asking for their support in person.
It's the old-fashioned way, and it still works every single time. That's why you were so supportive, and that's why you were elected. I really do, because you were out there talking to us, and we definitely appreciate that. Thank you, John, for being with us on the show, and thank you guys so much for watching. Continue sending email. If you have more email, some questions for John next time he's on the air, send those to me, please. Donna at donnasedge.com. Donna at donnasedge.com. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.